look ahead to another ranked opponent, this one at home, Bulldog Stadium, Saturday night, 7:30. The Utah Utes are coming to town. And Coach DeRuyter, I'm sure we all want to know how you're going to get your team focused and past the loss at Ole Miss, focused on this big win, a big opportunity for a win against Utah.
Well, we'll talk with our players today. As I reminded them after the game on Saturday, we're not going to let one game define this team. We're obviously disappointed in the result. I'm not discouraged by how we played as far as effort and resolve. We had guys that, obviously made mistakes. It took us a while to adjust to their speed, but I didn't see that far away look in their eyes, and we'd had in years past. We've got some good young players. I thought we had an opportunity to get back in the game in the third quarter, and I think everybody in our team felt that, and that we had that opportunity, and we kind of let it go through our hands. But turn the ball over 4 times, the second half, you can't do that and beat bad teams, let alone a nationally ranked team like Ole Miss in their own stadium. But having said that, we've got things to correct this morning from the tape, and our guys are encouraged to be back in Bulldog Stadium. Having a blackout this weekend, we remember the last time that we had the true blackout, the first time we wore the black uniforms. The electricity in the stadium was palpable. Our guys got a tremendous surge from it, and we're going to need that. Having 21st ranked Utah coming in here, an excellent football team, tremendous defense. Coach Whittingham has had for years. They played 2 Division I teams, a Big Ten team, and a team that won 10 games last year in Utah State, and held both of those under 20. And in college football today, that's very, very difficult to do. Offensively, they've got explosive playmakers. Most of their offense back. Remember Kenneth Smith, or Scott from last year, big physical receiver. Devontae Booker's an all Pac-12 running back, and whether it's Wilson or Thompson, two quarterbacks that are genuine dual threat quarterbacks. So we know it's going to be a heck of a challenge, but with the Red Waves backing and hopefully everybody in black this weekend, we like the fact that we got the opportunity here at Bulldog Stadium.
So it's no accident you're wearing a black polo shirt this morning?
Oh, yeah, that kind of worked out.
You mentioned Utah in the national ranking at 21. When you play a tough schedule, you know it's going to be a war every week, but coming off a game like last week's that has the potential to really weigh emotionally on the team, is this a good thing to know that you're going up against another nationally ranked opponent? Like, make some focus forward more because it's such a well-regarded opponent you're going up against?
Well, I don't know. I think our charge this week is to get better as a team, regardless of who we play. Our players saw this morning when we watched the tape, there was a lot of plays on both sides of the ball that if we play proper technique, if we make the proper reads, if our eye's in the right place, it could have been a different ballgame. Give credit to Ole Miss. They've got terrific players, and when you don't make those plays correctly, they took advantage of it. But I think our players saw some very correctable things that, we're anxious to get better as a team, and, why not just jump right back up on that horse that bucked us off and let's go.
You mentioned Utah's quarterback situation. Travis Wilson getting hurt in that game against Utah State, but everybody here wants to know about your quarterback situation. What is the plan this week against the Utes?
We're going to evaluate it this week. We'll make probably a game time announcement, but I think Chasen did some good things, but he's got to protect the football much better than he did last week. Zach was efficient. He's got to continue to get better at his reads and leading us. Both of them have room to go to get to where we want to, and we'll see how they progress this week.
So you're not going to proclaim the starter until Saturday?
Not if they're not.
Looking at theirs, Kendall Thompson obviously very quick running the football, not as good a passer as Wilson is. Does that bring you some preparation dilemmas? Do you have to gear up and expect Thompson to be the guy and deal with his running attack?
Well, Wilson, I think, runs extremely well, too. They're different style runners. We're looking at both. We've got plenty of tape from last year and then from last game. I think there'll probably be some slight changes in game plan depending on who the quarterback is. But, whether it's Wilson or Thompson, you've got to be ready for the quarterback run game. I think both of them hurt us last year in the quarterback run game, and it's something that we've got to address.
Questions for Coach on the microphone?
Coach, do you still plan on using both quarterbacks throughout the game, or is that something that's going to be kind of a game time flow thing?
Yeah, we're going to see how it goes this week in practice, and then of course during the game we'll see how it goes. Our plan for these first 3 non-conference games was to get every position, but especially the quarterback position, solid going into league play. So we're going to continue to evaluate this week, and ideally have one, but we'll see how it goes.
It seemed like everybody was really impressed with how Chasen played in that second quarter, and then he turned it over a little bit in the second half. But how encouraged by what you saw for that stretch there in that second quarter by him?
Well, I was really impressed by his poise and presence. He stood in there in the face of a very difficult rush, made some plays, and, made some throws. There's some throws he wish he had back. There's some reads he wish he had back. But for a true freshman quarterback, I can't say enough about his poise and presence. But what he's got to do a much better job. We can't play him if he continues to turn the ball over like he did in the second half. He's got to do a better job protecting it. He's going to be coached up on it. I know Coach Ram is going to hold him to that standard. I believe he's going to continue to work on it. And it's difficult to make those quick decisions. The thing I like about him is he will make those decisions. They're just not, we got to get him making the better decisions.
How important is it to put up a good showing in front of the Red Wave this week with the blackout, and not only for confidence amongst your team, but just kind of for the whole overall feeling of the program going forward?
Well, it's very important. We're 18-2 here at home. I think the Red Wave likes when they come to Bulldog Stadium and leave happy. We as coaches and players do the same way. I want us to, commit this week to playing our absolute best game on Saturday, but we realize we've got a tall order this week. I mean, this is a terrific football team. We're going to need the Red Wave behind us if we're hoping to have a chance, and we're hoping they're going to show up like they always do, and as rabid as they always are, because we're going to need that. We're going to need that energy to beat a terrific team.
I know a big focus, during the spring and fall was not trying to give up those big plays, and did a pretty good job of that against Abilene Christian, and then it kind of came back to haunt you a little bit against Ole Miss. How do you address that again?
Well, again, it's still a point of emphasis. We've got to play our technique better. A couple of situations, our alignment and leverage was wrong, and some of the times our eyes were wrong, and then quite frankly, just our perception of how fast they were was wrong. By the time we turned and ran, we were losing that foot race. And so, while Utah's got excellent players too, that might be the best receiving corps I've seen in coaching college football. Very, very impressed with them. And Kelly threw the ball on the money. There was a couple throws that I thought, oh, thank God he overthrew it. And then I said, oh my God, the guy caught it. He caught up to it because he threw it so far. I thought there's no way he's catching up, and he had that extra gear. I'm sure Utah will test us vertically, and it's something we will work on all week this week to get better at it.
The play selection when Chasen was a quarterback was quite a bit different than when Zach was in a quarterback. Is that when you ran the ball more with Zach, at least early on in the game, there was more runs?
I don't go ahead.
It seemed like it to me. I mean, just looking at the play-by-play, is that a function of the score though? Because Chasen comes in as 28-0, or is that a function of what you think the relative strengths of the quarterbacks are?
A lot of what we do, Mark, is based on reads. And the game plan didn't change with both quarterbacks. It's how they're playing us and how the quarterback's reading it. So there's almost always a run-pass read on our first and second down stuff. And even our third down stuff, third and short, third and medium, we'll do a lot of that. So we really didn't have two different game plans going in, if that was the question. It's just more based on how the quarterbacks read things and a function of what Ole Miss was doing defensively.
You mentioned Devontae Booker, and obviously Booker and Waller is going to be a plot line for this game. Two very similar backs, two very similar backs. But the reason Utah's 2-0 is the defense, right? 2 weeks in a row, what they do to Michigan and Utah State. What stands out to you about that Utah defense and what's made them successful?
Well, they've always been extremely physical up front, and again this year they are very stout in their line. They've got linebackers who can run and tackle. They're gonna play a lot of 8-man front and force you to throw the football to beat them. They've got guys in the back end that can cover, so they're difficult to prepare for because physically they get after you. They've got big guys, just like last week, that can run. That makes it tough. Schematically, they'll do some things. They haven't been extremely exotic. They play a lot of close middle coverage, but it's more just their guys physically getting after people.
Coach, I'm sure you wouldn't want to talk about moral victories before the game even starts, but do you think it would be an important thing to have a game close in the fourth quarter against one of these Power 5 schools?
We don't look at it that way. I want our guys to play well. We play well, of course we want to win the football game. I'll get some sense of satisfaction. We haven't played well, We played decent against Abilene Christian. We need to play our best game of the year against these guys. We do that, I'll be satisfied, and hopefully the score will take care of itself.
You mentioned Chasen and his decisiveness. He is a young kid. I think sometimes you can lose sight of that when you're playing at this level. The touchdown pass he threw in the second, I think, was an example of him making a decision quick and making the right throw. Then he made the same kind of thing in the second half and threw some picks. Is that something you feel like through film study and him just maturing, he'll kind of fix? Is that how you look at it?
Well, that's what we're hoping for. He's a very bright young man, very mature. His advantage is he's played in a spread system for 4 years in high school. So he understands the concepts and reading coverages and timing and where guys are supposed to be. When you're doing all that at a fast tempo against an excellent defense, you're not always going to be 100%. The more he sees it, the more, it's easy to sit in the film room and say, yeah, I should have done this, should have done that. It's getting out there and repping it where it's just feel and not that half a second of processing. And we got to get him closer to that. And the more he plays, the better he's going to get. And the same thing with Zach.
Obviously, the turnovers are a big issue, but is it a quality that you like in your quarterback that he doesn't seem to be worried about it? Like he looks Reed, he trusts that that's what he's going to do?
Yeah, obviously you want a quarterback that is decisive, as long as those are the correct decisions, but a guy who's got confidence in what he's doing, and I think Chasen exhibits that.
Coach, it's only been a small sample size, but how do you judge where your team is at right now? Because the two games you've played, an FCS school and an FBS school in one of the toughest conferences in the country. So where is your team right now based on the opponents?
Based on our opponents, it's very, very difficult because we played well against an FCS team, which we should have, and we didn't play well against one of the top teams in the country, and the score reflected that. I think we are potentially a much better team than a year ago. I think we're much more talented. I think you can see that. We're much more explosive on offense. I think it's hard to say this, playing the way we did Saturday. I think, we're much better on defense. It'll remain to be seen as we go through the season. But I think this will be a terrific test for us. Again, I like the fact that it's home. Hopefully our young guys will feel more comfortable playing a great opponent, but having the Red Wave behind us will definitely help. It was loud in that stadium last week. There was a lot of guys that had never played in front of 65,000. We're kind of, looking around, taking the whole thing in. And in that first quarter, we had some guys very uncharacteristically do some things that, when you'd ask them about it on the sideline, they were like, Coach, I don't know why I did that. But the adrenaline was pumping so much that they kind of lost their minds a little bit. And that's what happens with young players. The more you get that out of your system and just go play, the better we can compete. And I think that'll show as we go through the season.
The end of the first half, last 20 seconds or so of the first half, what was going on your sideline? Because, it worked out great. You got the points and you had a chance to get within 2 scores in the second half, but you almost missed your chance with clock management. What happened?
Yeah, and that's on me. We had the penalty, but the penalty was after a running play where the clock was stopped because of the penalty, but they restarted it. We came off the sideline, and I should have done a better job telling Chasen, hey, look, the clock's going to start as soon as they chalk it. I didn't. We had a play that we don't typically have motion. We had to get everything set and then get the motion with the fly. We were fortunate to get that off. We got to do a better job with that on the sideline.
You said in your opening statement that you didn't see the faraway look in your eyes that you maybe seen in previous years. Can you expand on that? What look did you see, in that?
Well, I think we had guys that were excited to play. That adrenaline where you're just on edge, and you want players to play with that. But there is a tipping point where, we had a player that is extremely dependable. The first punt, he forgot to stay on the field for punt. He's been on the punt team forever. And then you catch him, and he says, Coach, I lost my mind for a second. But the far away look is when there's that discouragement, that wonderment, like, hey, do I even deserve to be here? Our guys kept competing. They didn't care what the scoreboard said. They kept competing. And I mean, it's difficult to do when you're in that kind of environment, and you know, if you do start looking at the scoreboard. But we didn't have that. I thought we had terrific leadership. I thought Edgerow did a nice job keeping our defense, you know, dialed in. That encourages you. Where, you know, a year ago, we didn't have that at times.
It seems, at least to me, that a lot of times the big games bring out the black uniforms. Is that kind of a mentality? Like, do you sense a different mentality with the black unis?
I don't know. You know, I know our players like it. The times we've worn them, I think our fans have liked it. There's been a different energy in the stadium, and you know, we don't want to just get this game, you know, and play close. That's not the goal. The goal is to win this football game, and we think we're capable of doing it if we play well. We realize that playing against Utah, 21st ranked team that's playing really good football right now, is a difficult task. So we want to use everything we can to hopefully get that done. You know, we've been fortunate while wearing the black uniforms. We've used that energy and we've won those football games, and hopefully we can do the same thing, you know, this Saturday night.
Is it possible that Ole Miss is really that good? They put up 70-plus points in both of their games this season.
Yeah, it's possible. I saw them live. I think they're pretty darn good. Now, having said that, we've got to do a much better job of not giving them the vertical throws. And, you know, they'll play Alabama this week, and we'll see. I think Alabama, speed-wise, will match up with them better. But if that quarterback has time to throw, I think they're capable, not scoring 70, but they're going to be capable of putting some points on the board against a really good defense, Alabama. They did a year ago. I think Kelly's playing better as a quarterback, looking through the tape of last year's tape than last year's quarterback. I was impressed with the way he played, how quick his delivery was, how accurate he was. I think their running back's a terrific player, and they've got multiple receivers that are really, really good.
How did the leaders of the team kind of talk to the guys afterwards? Because you guys are young. How did they help the team out?
I think it was great. And it wasn't just after the game, it was during the game. We had constant encouragement from our guys. We had guys, you know, setting the tone that, hey, we're going to continue to fight this thing. It doesn't matter. That resolve is what you're looking for, as opposed to resignation that, you know, hey, the conclusion's already set. If we'll keep fighting, you know, we may play a better team this season. We won't play a more talented team, I don't believe. And our guys know that a lot of the things we did were self-inflicted. And if we can eliminate those mistakes, we had opportunities where we could have closed that game. And you know, I think our guys were encouraged by that.
The times when they got over the top on you, was that a result of them just being better, or was that somebody's mental mistake, or was that maybe in the wrong scheme for the play that was called? You know,
There's a couple things. The biggest thing was the technique they were playing with, you know, their leverage, and then their eyes. You know, keeping their eyes in the backfield too long and not transitioning. And those are very correctable things. And then understanding at what point is your cushion broken when I need to turn and run. It wasn't that a guy was just turned loose. It was bad eyes and bad technique that we believe are correctable. And then it's, you know, against a very, very fast receiver, you better get turning quicker and you better get some contact to be able to throw timing off. We didn't collision those receivers enough.
Hey, Coach, Williams took a shot in the second half. Is there any update on wide receiver?
Yeah, he suffered a head injury, and he'll be doubtful for this week.
And also, do you have a sense on the quarterbacks on how they're handling the situation? Do you think it's a distraction maybe to other players that they don't know who might be throwing them the ball, or how are they handling that situation?
I don't think it's a distraction at all. Both quarterbacks play during practice, and they don't worry about who's throwing them the ball.
On that note, Coach, I know for you guys, it's one day at a time, 1 week at a time, and your focus has to be on what's happening in front of you. But for the fans, it's just part of a texture where they see 12 games a year, and that's all they remember of those games. So they're experiencing a little deja vu. You go into the Utah game last year, you're coming off a game at USC where the starter fell behind, the backup came in, ignited some spark, turned the ball over. They want him to start the next week. You say, I don't know till the Utah game, and really, they're hearing the same thing that they heard a year ago. Tell us why it's different in 2015 than it was in 2014.
Well, every year, your teams are different. I like the chemistry of this year's unit. I think we're much further ahead as far as skill around our quarterback. We're better up front. Our 3 senior offensive linemen I thought played very, very well last week. And our 2 guards did as well. Well, the guard center with Jacob. I think our team is coming off a lot more confidence. We came off the USC game a year ago, and quite frankly, I think our guys were discouraged. We weren't able to do a whole lot on either side of the football. Our guys know this year that when we play correctly, we can play with that team, and we feel we can play with this team. So the fact that we've got them at home, and hopefully, like I said, we'll have a great crowd supporting us. I like our chances.
You mentioned that offensive line really did play pretty well. I think in a game like you just saw on Saturday, that could be kind of overlooked when you look at that score. But you guys haven't given up many sacks this season. They've got good protection on the run. Against the defense that you're going to face this week, and how important is it that keeps
It's critical. This is a defensive front that is probably every bit as good as what we just faced. Last week they had some tremendously talented guys. We gave up the 1 sack, and not to put it on Zach, they did a really good job of disguising a blitz. Zach saw it. He flipped the protection, but then we had a guy come free late, and it's one of those things. Sometimes they make a good call or a good disguise, but the rest of the time, fairly clean pockets to throw through. And in the run game, I thought we were able to do a decent job a lot of the time to spring Martez for some runs. So we're going to need that. Regardless of who starts at a quarterback, if we can run the ball effectively, we'll have a chance. The thing that Utah does a great job is shutting down people's run game.
Coach, how close is Delvon to being ready to go?
He's close. He'll practice this week, non-contact, and then we'll reevaluate him next week to see where he's at. Doctors are looking for leg strength, right leg versus left leg, and once he gets to certain parameters, we'll be able to clear him for full contact, but he's close.
I asked this knowing that one play doesn't make a huge difference in a game, that score. But on your first drive, it was 3rd and 1. You ran kind of a counter play or some kind of misdirect, a run that I guess wasn't quick to develop, I guess. What's the philosophy behind, you think, that play call?
We were running a read counter play, which means you're reading the defensive end, and if he chases like he did, we're supposed to pull it and either run or throw it. And it's basically triple option football. And
So what happened on that play then when you watch the film again?
we didn't do a good job of blocking back on the 3 technique. He was extremely explosive, got up the field and disrupted the play. And I think it was a matter of their guy being a little bit quicker, timed the snap count up, and we didn't get there quick enough. Now later on we ran the same play, blocked him, and we had some success with the counter play. But on that particular play, they did a better job of executing the defense than ours.
Is that the kind of play that in practice it works when you're playing against Ole Miss and their 3 technique?
Yeah, our scout team 3 technique's not quite the same look as their All-American 3 technique, and that's football. Nowhere in the country is the scout team going to give you as good a look as you're going to see on Saturday, and sometimes it takes time to understand the timing of it, and to be able to adjust to that speed. We've got to do a better job there.
How pleased were you with Damari Scott's debut, and did he show you he can be a difference maker for this?
Very pleased. The thing I was probably most pleased with was how he blocked. Everybody noticed him making the catch and the run after catch, and making the tough catch on a 3rd down play, in traffic. We knew he was capable of those kind of things. We know that he's worked extremely hard to kind of prove to his teammates that he deserves to be back. And I was pleased that he had some success. But again, going back to my first statement, he blocked his tail off, and I think he set the tone. Coach Wade can go to those other receivers and say, hey, look, this is the standard. This is how we got to get after people, because he blocked the heck out of people.
Let's go to the phone real quick. Josh, did you join us? Anybody else on?
Or maybe not.
Any other questions?
One quick question. Coach, did you get a chance to watch the Raiders yesterday and your thought on Derek? And
I was grading the tape and I had it on the background and I didn't see it live, but yeah, no, I just saw that he had his hand banged up and got knocked out.
did you get a chance to talk to him or?
I texted him today and just encouraged him, and I think he's going to be all right.
All right, we'll let Coach go and bring up Shannon Edwards.